It is great to see everybody here. Hey, my name is Kurt Molly. This is Jeff Schechter, or this is Jeff Schechter, if I'm pointing in the camera the right way. Had a couple of technical difficulties. Tell you one thing is we love to do this Blab thing. Blab support has just been absolutely awesome. So it's one of the reasons we encourage to do a weekly Blab. It's a great way to connect with your customers. So thank you, Blab support. If you're watching the recording now, you're like, I don't think there was a problem. So it's the whole smoke and mirrors about stuff too. So welcome, Shecky. I know you're traveling internationally. You are going to be back in the States, which I'm really excited about. And I'm also excited about talking about today because we're going to talk about mastering that follow-up. And so great is how much is too much? Very important. Yeah. How much is too much? So just to be clear on just a couple of really quick basic things is first off on Blab, remember if Shecky says something that's really important, go ahead and give these little high fives right over here, the props. Right, one of the best compliments that you can give Shecky and I is if you hear us say something that you really like, that you really resonate with, something that you can implement in your business, please share us on social media. Share the last 60 seconds either on the Facebook or the Twitters. And any questions you have, of course, along the way, put on the right-hand side. And again, make sure you follow Shecky and I on Blab just to keep us up to date. Shecky, I've been playing with Snapchat as a follow-up process as well, too. That's really for a later call. That is what we call an interesting situation. But remember all these, all of these recordings go up on our social media Ad Genius YouTube page. And for the last, Shecky, a little over 90 days, we have been talking about really a 12-step process that we call the Social Media Ad Genius Profit Factory. And we have taken people literally step by step from how do we make sure we're following up with the right, or how do we make sure that we're targeting the right person, to targeting, to retargeting, to landing pages, to making our initial offer, right? And then following up after that. And then what we talk about is we got to do something weekly, right? There has to be some kind of like weekly event. There has to be some kind of weekly content. There has to be some kind of weekly call to action. So now you have that call to action, offering additional products or services. What we're going to talk about actually in 2 weeks is offering splinter products. Well, now that you've made your main offer, now that you've followed up with people along the path, how should you be following up with people consistently? Now, many of you have heard me say, nobody ever does anything consistently ever, and that's where we get poor results, right? But it's weird, Shecky, when we talk about consistency and follow-up, now all of a sudden people are like, whoa, I know that I spent a lot of time on targeting. I know I built landing pages that resonates with them. I know I put their name, their language that my customers use on the landing page and in the emails, but I don't want to send them more than 3 emails. I'm only going to do 1 retargeting ad because those clicks are a little more expensive than cold acquisition, but I don't want to make anybody mad or offend anybody. Shecky, have you ever heard anybody say that before?
No, only a couple of hundred times.
I'm going to let you answer that for a second, give you perspective on it. I got to grab a drink. I was just on a 2-hour-long call with a client, and my water's just within reach here just for a second. Okay? So I'm going to let you go ahead and take it away, my friend.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. So a couple things. It's as we know that let's just say whereas attention is, and we talked about this before, is kind of the currency that's going on the internet right now. Email lists are important, but really everybody's vying for attention. So with the right ads, with the right content, it's not always that easy to grab somebody's attention. Once you do, you absolutely have to make sure that you continue to keep their attention, right? And we often use like dating analogies, for example. So, I'm a guy, so let's just put it in terms of guys trying to date a nice girl, right? If you really wanted to get the date with this girl and you followed up once or twice and, you weren't sure if she was interested or not, what's the likelihood of getting a date with this girl if you only send 1 or 2 texts to her or 1 or 2 emails, right? It's probably pretty low. So you have to keep these people on your list engaged. And obviously the easiest way to do that is through email, especially if they've already opted in. Now, if they haven't opted in, there's retargeting. And if they're buyers, of course, you already have a relationship with them. And we're going to talk about all those different kinds of ways to follow up based on the level of interest. But if you have, here's the main point. If you have a good product, service, message, which I'm assuming everybody who's on this call does, what sort of service are you providing to your audience if indeed you're only sending out a couple messages to them. Like I would argue, and I know these are Kurt's words, that it's really a disservice if you're not continually following up with those people. Because the reality is you have to, I'm sorry, let me just finish this point, Kurt. You have to meet people where they are, right? So in other words, not necessarily everybody is ready to buy today. Not necessarily everybody is ready to opt in today, right? So you've got to create a situation where whenever they are, I mean, we've got people that have been on our list for a long time. They followed us for a long time, and it may have taken them, a long time to buy something from us. And that's totally fine because we spent all that time following up, building value. And they knew as a result of that we would always be there for them. So by you just kind of dropping off the face of the planet, you put 2, 3, 4 emails out there and then not doing any retargeting or anything like that. I promise you, with the amount of distraction that the internet is and all the other people that are vying for that set of eyeballs that now you happen to have for a couple of minutes, somebody else is going to get them. They absolutely will. So it may as well be you, right? There, I'm done with my rant.
No, I think this is really good. One of the things that we mentioned is every single Sunday, what Shecky does is he writes an article, and he writes an article about our training topic for the week, right? So, for example, like the follow-up process here. So I'm going to leave up that blog here that you can check out here in just a minute. So just a couple of things, and Shecky, you really hit it on the head because you heard me say this before. But as a really quick technical break, is if you hear that it's reverbing or maybe echoing, what Shecky and I have done is we put in our earphones so we make sure that it doesn't come through our mic and it doesn't loop over. So sometimes every once in a long while with Blab is you may hear an echo, but if you refresh your screen or if you close your browser and close out all the other tabs and then open it back up, sometimes that echo goes away. It's one of these weird tech things, but just keep on updating us on the right-hand side. If I'm pointing to it right over here, keep updating us if if you hear any kind of echoes, because some people will have it, some people won't. But that's again, unless it becomes another issue, I'm not going to check about tech issues anymore. I'm just going to jump into this. Shecky, you're really right. You've heard me say this over and over and over. It's really a disservice not to follow up with people. It really, really is. So see, what ends up happening is, again, is we look over the entire 12 steps of the Profit Factory, right? We've identified the avatar, we've created the messaging, right? We may have even surveyed the avatar to figure out what they say, what they like, what their special requirements are. So we know that with the targeting on Facebook, we have a really good idea that this is pretty much going to be the right person for us. Now, one of the things, like the Shecky, that you said, and I love how you said this, is meet them where they're at, right? Sometimes it's changing a belief system. Maybe they believe that they can't do it. Maybe they believe that there is no cure or antidote, or there is no, like, hey, I didn't know that chiropractors can adjust your neck and your entire body can feel better. I didn't know. I've never been educated on it. Or a really good foot massage can really help cleanse the body, the liver, like acupuncture. Well, I didn't know the possibilities. I didn't know I could go get acupuncture when I had a cold. I had no idea. Sometimes we have to educate the market just a little bit. But maybe I don't have a cold. Maybe I don't need acupuncture right now. But now I'm at least exposed to the message because I'm already into health. I'm already into green smoothies. I'm already into like mountain biking and stuff like that. So this makes me a good candidate, but just not right now. But what may happen later is learn how to better cleanse your body. I'm real big into cleansing, and the reason is just because of just for nutrition. And as we all get older, I mean, Shecky really pays attention to his health. And what ends up happening is as we're talking back and forth, maybe there's a conversation I have with Shecky where I'm like, hey, Shecky, did you know that you can go to acupuncture for colds? Well, Shecky's like, well, of course, I've done this for years. You didn't know this? Well, I go there for stress, for cleansing. But see, we're open enough to have the conversation. So next time I see that ad, even if it's about colds, well, I've been educated by the public and by the right content. So what's really important to remember is I would never have that conversation with Shecky unless I saw that ad and it was curiosity and it meant something to me. Or I saw that acupuncturist follow up 4 or 5 different times, educating me a little bit more because she knows she's dialed into my avatar. She knows she just has to educate me. He or she knows they have to educate me just a little bit. It's not because I was against acupuncturists, for example. I just didn't know. I just didn't know what I didn't know, right? So what happens is when we spend so much time on targeting, and we really start following up and we make an offer or two, we think just because someone said once or no once or twice that they're going to say no forever. You know, a couple of weeks ago, Shecky, I talked about a case study, a fellow student, and I got an email back for which is great. So I like to talk about, Bree and how she helps, singers, right? And I'll just never forget the story where she learned one idea from Ryan Levesque, a great friend. And because she had all this momentum, she's like, you know what I do? I'm following up on a regular basis because she has like this weekly podcast. So she's already sending a couple of emails a week. But then it comes down to, am I offending people if I'm sending too much? No, you got the right audience. Then she has one idea. She sends one email and generates a pretty good income. Like, I don't remember the exact number, so I'm not going to share it. It's not like, hey, she made $100,000 overnight, but it was the ability because she had that momentum and she had that connection with her audience. So check in. And we're going to talk about this because I've seen some of your presentation. What's some of the best ways to follow up with people? If you're always selling, right, we want you to be converting people, taking them to the next conversion step. But what have you seen work really well with, and I'll give you a key, with building relationships with people with follow-up versus selling and slamming them? What do you see?
Well, I want to answer that in two ways, because first of all, I'm going to click my little props button for you because you touched on something that actually you and I did not talk about, and I really want to talk about, and it's belief level. So if you think about it and you think about how busy the internet is, when somebody first gets exposed to you, they probably do not have a belief level in you. They probably do not have a belief level in whatever it is that you're offering. And there's also a great likelihood that they don't have a belief level in themselves being able to accomplish what they would really like to accomplish, or that they can really solve whatever problem it is that your solution provides. So you've got three different issues with belief that you're having to overcome. And, the reality is, that's not going to be overcome with 2 emails. So, think about it from a standpoint of yourself. Like, I always feel like a good marketer is somebody that's able to step into their prospect's shoes, right? And to say, okay, what is this person really experiencing? What are their real challenges, right? So somebody, sees you, right? Like, for example, let's use our niche just because that's one that we're all comfortable with. We teach people how to be successful online, right? So if somebody's coming into that space, there's a bunch of different people, and they come across some of the stuff that Kurt and I do, and they go, oh, this is interesting. There's some good value, but they don't necessarily know us well enough to say, hey, these guys can really teach me something, right? They certainly don't have enough faith in themselves yet, and they certainly don't know enough yet about our processes to be convinced that this is the right fit for them with where they want to go with being able to promote any kind of online marketing for their business. Yeah. It's only after a certain amount of time and after a certain amount of exposures that we start whittling away at those different belief systems, so those different, inability to believe, right? It's almost like that term, suspending the disbelief just for a minute, right? Yeah. And after a while, you get to a point where somebody goes, okay, so that's part A of the question. So I want to give you props just for really talking about belief system, because I think there's a big psychology to this that people, as a marketer, you do yourself a disservice for not recognizing that this is going on in the marketplace, right? So that's part A. Part B is, to answer your question, is then how do you indeed do that? And the answer is any way you freaking can, right? So people obviously are, some people like to watch a video, right? I mean, we talked about this in a couple other Blabs that we do. Like, I tend to be a researcher and I want to read some things and poke around on a few different websites till I finally kind of gain some insights. But other people are ones that they're just more emotional creatures. And just like one really good heartfelt video might really turn them around, right? Other people are just super, super analytical, and you could give them like, a checklist or a comparison chart or something like that, and they're geeky enough that they would really, really appreciate that. So that's kind of what I meant by meeting people where they are. Different people learn in different ways, and they're going to take on information different ways. So, that said, it doesn't mean that you have to go out there and spend your entire time marketing going follow up. Yes, it's an extremely important component, but you want to do what works for you and what feels right for you. So in other words, if you're not the kind of person that can really, you feel like I can't really do well in front of a camera and I can't do some sort of heartfelt video like you just talked about, Shecky, then you know what? Don't do video, right? Because maybe you're the kind of person that communicates well with writing and you can do a really, really nice email series. But no matter what the medium, it's always best to put people into a situation where they can relate to somebody else that has a similar or nearly identical problem to what they do. And so whether that's in the form of a case study or especially a story, right, or just an example, people can always relate to situations with somebody that's very similar to their own avatar. Right? So if they're a 35-year-old female and they're reading a story about another 35-year-old female or 38-year-old female who's in the same boat, who has 2 children and a semi-okay marriage and isn't making as much money as she wants and it kind of feels like there's more to life, it's like she can really relate to that person, right? So that's the best kind of follow-up is, what kind of information am I putting in front of somebody that they are really, really going to relate to?
Agreed. Yep. Absolutely agreed. I mean, the thing is people always wonder. They're like, how much is too much follow-up? How much is too little follow-up? How do I really keep them engaged? Because I just want them to come to this one webinar. Well, like, for example, like for our stuff. Well, if you're coming to a webinar on Facebook, well, maybe you just didn't attend the webinar, or maybe you just didn't have a chance to watch the replay, or maybe you did watch the replay, but you didn't have a chance to actually see all the details of it, but you didn't have time to buy it and the price went up. Then you decide, I'm just going to wait till next time. Well, sending them something else about Facebook is great. We're actually going to cover this in the next 2 weeks of offering these splinter offers. But in the meantime, how do we make sure we really follow up properly? And remember, I'm always asking myself, Shecky brought this up, how do I always make sure I'm of service? So I got a really good question down over here. Can you possibly address how portrait and fine artists can utilize this? Absolutely, absolutely. So I'd have to find out a little bit more about your business, but I would love to tackle something just like this. Now, I'm going to make some of this up, right? I'm going to kind of give you a couple of examples of how this may work. And as I'm talking, if you type over in the right-hand side in the comment section for the recording, yeah, you see this in the recording. If you type a question over there, I'm happy to read it and kind of repeat it as well too. So here's a couple of things that are an idea. Now, if we're talking about portraits, are we talking about like family portraits? And again, I'm going to ask questions as a layman. Please, I don't mean to offend you at all. So if I ask something that's just like a really dumb question, I just don't know any better. I always like to say I'm from Texas and from Nebraska, so it makes me a little slower. It's just kind of part of what it is. So anyway, the first thing that I start thinking about is, okay, what do you want to sell, right? Are we a family, kids, your dog, or how, a horse, all the same? Okay, good. Oh, great. The stories that you can tell through pictures. I'm sure that you enjoy doing that. The stories that you can tell through pictures are great. That's what I would exactly use on Facebook. So for example, you may, and I'm just going to give you just kind of a couple of different ideas. You may do a meetup every 6 weeks where you actually have a place, maybe it's your studio, where maybe you host on like, how do you take family pictures at home, right? Let me give you a great example. My mom loves digital photography. She will take 400 pictures over a 2-hour period of time that she'll never look at, but she loves it. If you offered a meetup class, for example, right? Somebody who had visited your site, you can retarget them over to a meetup. Hey, come to our local meetup where we show you how to create the perfect frames, or we show you how to create the perfect portraits for your family. And you get even just 10 people, even just 5 people, maybe it's in your studio, maybe it's at a coffee shop, and you talk about, here's some tips and tricks. My mom would hire you in a second if she saw some of your other pictures and be like, oh my God, I'd love to do this for my family. The meetup isn't to sell. It's just to get to know the community a little bit. They're already interested in photography, right? You kind of have different skill levels, right? So I know you're not looking to market to like the high-end photographer because they want to do it on their own. You're not showing them how to do everything on your own. You're like, hey, look, when your family's opening presents, let me show you how to take pictures. Oh, you want to do some beautiful family portraits for your Christmas cards? Oh, I got you covered. I will be happy to hook you up. This is going to be great. Oh, this is for artist paintings. What I would do is I would target people. You probably know really well if you look over your demographics of your purchasers over the last 2 or 3 years. If you can go back farther, that's great. I take a look at what those demographics are. I would imagine that's probably over $100,000 in income. You probably target specific zip codes, depending if it's local or if you want to target nationally. I would target people who have an art interest, who have who have an income over $100,000, past the page, the point of 30, in my opinion, 35 or 30. And what I would do is I would, with permission of your clients, is I would take some of these pictures and I would write out a story of what these pictures are. I'm just going to make this up, right? Maybe it's a hunter and his dog. And either for you, or you can have a story writer write a story that's like 4 or 5 paragraphs that talks about the memory of this dog, talks about his friend, the way he wanted to remember his friend, his best friend that had been with him for 15 years. And then at the very bottom, it says, if you'd like to experience this on your own, we love to make these stories come true even for you. Click a link, goes back to your site, right? So many people get worried about, hey, I got to be 10% off. I got to have 15% off. And this is just me. Maybe it's because of my generation. But when I see 10% off, like I really don't even pay attention. Like that doesn't motivate me to buy. Quite honestly, maybe this is just, I don't know, part of my personality. Like it depends on what the price point is, right? If it's in between, $500 and $3,000, yeah, I'm going to take a look at it. If it's in between $500 and $700, like I don't really care. I know what I want. So when you have somebody, especially like I can think about my former girlfriend that I lived with for 10 years. She's a dog lover. She's such a great person. But if she wanted to learn how to take some photography a little bit when we were going for a walk in the park, she'd love that. She'd really love that. But to have pictures with the 2 beagles for Christmas, oh my goodness, she loves that. The thing she doesn't really like is trying to like wrangle up the dogs and everything else, right? But to be able to have a portrait, oh, I remember she painted the dogs one time herself. Like she went to a class with a friend who drank some wine. She loved it. To get a picture painted, yes. And it goes along the story of the why, right? It's all about how you tell the story and not the details. Let me give you just a small example to be part of a follow-up, and then check it. It looks like you have a comment. I'll hand it back to you. So one of the things I like to tell people is a story that I had when I was out in Stockton, California. Check, you've heard the story 1,000 times, right? I'm out there. I'm speaking at an event. And here's the details that nobody cares about. I'm speaking at the event. 15 of us chipped in to get a limo to go to dinner, which was like 2 miles away. So it was too far to walk for at the time. And it just, anyway, whatever. So I am upstairs working, fulfilling some promises that I made to some clients, because that's what I think you should do as a business owner. And I was late to dinner. So I had to call my friend. And my friend came, or called the limo owner. The limo owner had his driver come pick me up. And I went to dinner by myself in the limo. Pretty dumb. Or I posted on Facebook, wow, I'm in Stockton, California again, speaking at an event on my way to dinner in a limo. Couldn't imagine things getting better than this. Now, people will create whatever story that they have in their head based off that. I didn't say, hey, they're renting me a limo or anything else, but I actually had clients come up and be like, potential clients that then said, Kurt, I want to hire you for the way that people are treating you, right? But people are going to hire you based off the stories. They already do. When they come into, whether you have a studio, you show them some of the things you've done in the past, the way that you would, I imagine, so because you're asking this question, you really bring that story to life in the painting. So telling those stories so people can flip through them, I would be using Instagram a lot, which I'm sure that you do. Like ideas, here's what we've done, or like pictures that people have given you with their permission, photographs, like let's just say of their pets or horses or family. Right? Here are the 5 different photos that we got. Here's what I turned it into. Let me tell you the story. And again, it's not the story about you making the photograph. It's the story that led up to that point. Like, when people come in and you may get sent photographs of like 4 generations, right? They're all sitting in one photograph and you do a painting like that. Telling a story because of the 4 generations is great. Because here's the thing. Remember this. This is very, very, very important. This is very important. Is people love to read stories. They're not always going to like and comment. Doesn't mean you're going to get a ton of likes on your fan page, right? As long as you're showing interesting pictures, fun, interesting paintings, fun paintings, some pictures that are turning into paintings on your fan page. By the way, another idea is you can always ask people, right? What do you like about this? Do you like this or that? Those questions are, always good for just kind of the fan page. But the retargeting of the message, I would feel, would be telling different stories about like the latest portrait that's coming up that you're working on, something you just recently worked on that you want to tell the world about, but really tell the story, like I said, if there's 4 generations of how they got there, how it came to this moment. It can really be a good story with a good story writer. Again, it doesn't have to be 10 pages. It could be 4 or 5 paragraphs. And it could either be just a story with the photograph. People can see the image, but if they want to see the detailed image, they can go over to your website, click link here. You don't always have to be selling something, but keeping that image and that story in front of people, I think, is really powerful to just your target demographic market. So
yeah, can I have my 2 cents here? Because I think this girl's name is Lynn, and I just want to address this too, because you've got all the great background story there, Kurt, to this, and it's great because the story is everything. But we also know from a standpoint of ads, especially on Facebook and other social media, images are so important, right? So if you're talking about the fine artists themselves, and from a licensing standpoint, like, it's okay, assuming it's okay, to show that artist's actual images of what they have created. Well, think about that. If you get a click, then somebody's already voted and said that, yes, I like this style, right?
Sure.
So you, to an extent, you have the advantage of other advertisers in that, if they're clicking on that image, they're already like, hey, I'm pretty partial to this kind of style. Right. So now you have that going for you, which is awesome.
That's really good, because, for instance, if you have let's just say, for example, if you were in Austin, right? I know the zip code of where we would target people. Shecky, to you would be, of course, Westlake area, right? We're going to target Westlake. There's huge houses out there, so I'm going to target all those zip codes. And ideally, those houses are going to be over $300,000, right? So it's okay if hundreds of people like your Facebook page, but you have no sales. It's okay. It's because you didn't know what you didn't know until you came here. So it is great to meet you, which is really important. So see, what happens is a lot of people just don't know the follow-up process, or they're not comfortable with it, so they're not quite sure. See, the thing is, it's one of the things that we train in our social media ad genius course. But the thing is really you should take a look at likes on a page. And I will argue with people all day long, violently, if people say, hey, I require a large number of likes for social proof. No, you don't. That's just what we call Shecky. What's that three-letter word? Starts with an E. G. Is it ego? Ego? Yeah, that's right. Ego. Yeah. I hear bell in the background. No one's like ding, 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 right? So here's the thing. What we want to be able to do is we want to be able, for example, like if we were in Austin, right? I love fine art, right? Maybe there's a fan page that's fine art. It doesn't have to be your business name. It can be. It's great. But if you want a wide funnel, I love family portraits. I love art, right? I love beautiful art. There's some keywords that you're going to know with your avatar more than what I know, right? But we're just asking people to just raise your hand. Now, I'm not asking people to raise their hand. Do you like ABC business? ABC portrait business, it's great. ABC portrait business is going to get you a couple of likes. You'll run some ads. Maybe you run a like campaign. It's great. People to see that brand. But if you go for a really wide funnel and you say, you're targeting zip codes or areas of the entire country, and you say, I like fine art, now we're starting to get at least a rough idea of who likes art. We're going to target income, right? We'll target some interest as well too. But Shecky, you said something that was really important. So if we funnel this down and we add, let's just say, dog lovers, because you're going to tell a story about a dog and a man who was with his dog for 15 years, recently got married, the dog died, and he wanted to have a portrait of his dog. And you tell that story. Everybody who clicks on your ad or who's on your fan page that you're targeting, that every single person, Shecky's right, they obviously like dogs because they're clicking on it. They're looking at that image. So the next time that you have a dog that comes in that you paint for a portrait, you can retarget that story as well too. So again, it's all obviously on the permission from your clients, but the way that you can segment and tell these stories, Shecky, I'm all passionate. I'm wearing a hat today. I did an 18-mile bike ride today. Came back, took a shower, jumped straight on into this. I love this business. This is fun. The whole moral of the story is, like Shecky said, you can start segmenting your audience. So start taking a look on how you can segment your avatar and your audience, and focus on some stories that you can tell inside of Facebook that will drive people back to your website that you can retarget with other stories. It's great. The like campaign, depending if it's your business page or a page that says I like art, it's great. Start kind of thinking about how do you get people to raise their hand to say, hey, I'm interested in what you're talking about. Not saying, hey, I like ABC company. Just because I like ABC company doesn't mean I'm going to go to their page. But to be able to run an ad, if you want to attract likes over to your page, like I would run an ad if I were in your business, or if I was running your business's ads, I would start targeting a certain zip code here in Austin because, and again, I don't know how your business works. I would imagine you could work from photographs, but I don't know if you'd like to talk to people locally, however that would work. I always test stuff locally and bridge it out from there. But what I would do is I would target a certain zip code, right? I would target a certain income, and I would start kind of figuring out in that income, and you can buy some of these demographic reports. You can see some of these inside of Facebook. They'll give you for audience insights. But I would start taking a look, okay, how many of these people really like art, right? Really enjoy art? Well, I'd imagine people who go to the art museum, or if they like an art museum fan page, right? Those are some different ideas for you as well, just locally. But keeping some of those stories and images in front of some of those people who are already interested in that subject matter. And then as Shecky said, as you start rolling out stories and sending people back, or catch the full story here, catch the full video here, send people back over to your blog or website so they can read the full study. Or sometimes we call it case study, sometimes we call it testimonial, sometimes call it recent good story, not good story, recent motivational story, right? Recent insight, recent portrait of a man in the love of his dog, right? That story behind it can really help. By the way, one other thing that you can do as well too, it could be a picture of the portrait or like half of the portrait, for example, that you have drawn out. Hey, see the rest of the process and how it ended up on your page, back on your website. And it could be a video of you just too, explaining the process. Any kind of video with you is going to build rapport. So to be able to say, hey, look, I know that you may have read the story, but when John, or when, so for example, like Shecky had an amazing dog named Rocky. We both love that. Rocky was awesome. To be able to retell Shecky's story and say, Shecky sat down and like, it was even the way that he passed, like it was just so poetic for the way that Shecky is and his dog was, like, it's just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful man-dog story. It really, really is. For you to be able to tell that story and the expression like on Shecky's face, as you're just kind of telling the story when he came in and how much, you love to be able to paint it. And hey, by the way, this is something that you also do if you'd like to do it for a family, but I just wanted to, let you know a little bit about Shecky's story and how much I really enjoy painting this. So notice it's not a sales pitch. It is, hey, let me tell you what I'm doing about this thing for Shecky. And I can help you too. But by the way, I want to tell you the story. People will relate to those stories really, really, really well. Shecky, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, I would. First of all, I totally agree with you, Kurt. And I think just to kind of put the asterisks on this conversation with Lynn, think about it. I mean, are you really going to a fan page to buy something? Yeah. I mean, nobody's really doing that, right? When somebody likes a page, right, first of all, what kind of a fan page is it? Is it something that's sort of telling about some of the ins and outs of fine art? Or is it somebody that's saying, ABC, we want to sell you fine art? So there's a distinction that has to be made there too. Like if you have a fan page that's named like super commercial, like when somebody likes it, it's obvious that it's just going to be a bunch of ads on there, then the likelihood that you're going to sell anything off there is pretty low. Okay. If you've put it in a situation where there's some clear benefit, like, understanding all the different styles of fine art and all the cool things you can do. And if somebody was into art and they knew that they could learn something from that fan page, then what you're doing is you're creating a situation where you're kind of bringing them into a conversation. And they're saying, yes, my hand is up because, yeah, I don't mind having this kind of conversation. This is something of interest to me, right? Those are the kinds of people that, like Kurt's saying, that they can go in, you can have a story, right? They can tell a story. It's something that they can relate to. And once they read that story, it's like, now you've put them in a frame of mind. It's like what we would call a pre-sale frame of mind. And you're saying like, hey, this is the kind of thing that really, like Kurt, when you were just telling the story about Rocky, you probably see the expression on my face. You're kind of, my dog died last year, right? So on Mother's Day, and that's a whole other story, but it tugs on my heartstrings, right? It puts me in an emotional frame of mind. So as a dog lover myself, if you start telling a story to me about a very similar story to the kind of relationship that I had with Rocky, guess what? My ears are perking up. My tail is wagging. I want to hear about that stuff, right? And now you've got me where you want me.
And let's just call it what it is. I'm very logical. Shecky knows this as well too, right? I'm passionate, but I'm very logical. Like, no one's getting a family portrait or a portrait of a dog painted for an investment. Like, it's it's going to go up in self-value and family value, but it's not going to go up typically in monetary value, right? This isn't something that they're investing in. This is a very, as you already know, a very emotional buy. Very emotional, right? This is, I'm sure it's more than $500. I'm sure it's $1,000 or a couple of thousand, and probably many multiple thousand, depending on how big it is. It's an emotional decision, right? It's kind of like getting married. Like, there is some logic kind of getting married, right? But I'm going to share my space in the bed with someone for the rest of my life. There's no way you can like someone for everything, for like every small little thing, right? People are in love, which is great, but it's like, it's not a logical decision. It's a decision made from the heart. That's what I would be focusing on, because Shecky's really going to resonate with $500. I'm making this up, by the way, $500 for a portrait of my dog. But when I started talking about the poetic, how beautiful that story was, you could see Shecky starting to smile. It really, $3,500 and up. Yeah, this is a completely emotional decision. Absolutely, stories would work so well. And especially if they're $3,500 and up, being able to, this is just an idea, but able to use like Odesk, now they think they call it Upstart or Fiverr, to even film a little video, or what I would do it from your shoes, completely up to you, is I would film, I would pick out some special stories, and here's exactly the way I'd set it up. Because both images and video work really well on Facebook, especially for your demographic market, right? I bet, well, first of all, I wonder what would happen if you changed your prices from $3,500 to $4,000. Like, I wonder if there's a difference in price. And that's the only reason I say this, only reason. I bet for $500, you could find someone, an outsourcer or someone on Fiverr or a local college kid, that if you could have them film just a little bit of the story for the person, which you may have this as your process. Again, this is just an idea. Reverb, can't understand what you said about 500. For $500, I bet you could hire a local film editor, right? Or you could hire someone online. So here's just kind of an idea. Like I said, if your price was instead of $3,500, $4,000, it just meant $500 on a video, right? This wouldn't be for everybody, but just bear with me. If we're going to use Shecky for an example. If Shecky came into your studio and you set up a time, and Shecky, if I asked you, Shecky, I'm going to ask you to tell your story. Do you mind if I film it? Because I'm going to want to watch it when I'm painting. There could be some things that I want to understand for some of the emotion. And I may use a small little clip later just to help tell the story about your dog. Is that okay? Okay, great. Yeah. I'd have the person come in. I'd have the film person, show up. Film. It doesn't have to be super fancy or anything else. Just an interview back and forth. Shecky, tell me about your dog. Tell me what's going on. Shecky's going to tell me this great story. And he's going to ramble a little bit. He's going to tell about these stories that kind of go off for a little bit. We're just going to let him talk to get all that emotion out so we can really see that. It's great. Now what happens is then you're going to start painting, right? And as you start painting, taking a couple of pictures, having the film guy come back once or twice is what you call B-roll. And you can even take, honestly, if you have an iPhone like 5 or 6, it has the camera's good enough. Not when I say good enough, like it's kind of shitty. Like, no, they've used it for award-winning films. So what you do is you can take either some pictures. I always take it like this. You can either take some pictures or film some video of you starting it out. Maybe there's some lines that you draw. You're starting to paint and draw it out. And what ends up happening is you can tell the story afterwards, what it was like for you to emotionally go through it and paint it. Those are always interesting for the artist to hear as well. And then, your conclusion, like you show the finished product, like at the very end of the video, you show the finished product. Now, my idea would be this: doing a video like that and having Shecky see the painting, right? I know Shecky and I love Shecky like a brother. Shecky's going to break down, start crying when he sees that painting. If you would like, I'd say, hey, Shecky, I put together this little video of what it was like for me to go through the experience of painting this for you. Your story with Rock is amazing. Here's a 2-minute video. You can pay someone $500 to take all that video and put it together with some music, where Shecky's voice is overlaying, while you're painting just a little bit, right? This doesn't have to be expensive. Like the film guy would show up literally twice. One to film Shecky, right? And then I'd even do it for my iPhone and send the files to someone to edit. And the second thing is to come up and at certain points that you're drawing, you can really take that with your iPhone. They put the whole thing together with some music, right? There's programs out there you can buy that will do this. But I'd put that together. And then when Shecky gets that video, he's going to love it. And then you're going to ask, hey, Shecky, can I tell other people your story? Do you mind if I post this on Facebook and tell people your story? Shecky's going to be, hell yeah, I love this. And it's going to be an emotional video that you made for Shecky, right? That's now plays on your fan page that you can do a boost post. These things will get shared. Done right? Doesn't have to be super professional. Doesn't have to be a $5,000 video. But done right, you can really get people to really like that story. I'm telling you, Shecky would be grinning for, here he is, just thinking about the idea, is grinning ear to ear of thinking, wait a minute, that video to him would mean a ton. There is nothing more. Shecky, let's be honest. If she wrote you 4 weeks later and said, hey, Shecky, I just wanted to let you know, thank you so much for allowing me to post this on my Facebook page. By the way, it has 1,000 likes and 500 comments and 100 shares. How would that make you feel as a customer?
Yeah, I know you're trying to ask me a question, but you kind of your audio kind of cut out. So I
Shecky, if that video was made of Rocky, right? And then she asked you to say, hey, yes, can I post this on my fan page? And you said yes. If she sent you an email a week later that said, hey, Shecky, by the way, here's a link to that post. Thank you for allowing me to post it. It's been shared over 500 times, has 1,000 likes and 200 comments. Thank you. What would you say?
I'd say thank you back. I mean, I think that's fantastic because obviously anybody in a tribe obviously feels the same way. So let's just call this tribe dog lovers, for example, right? So these are all these people that can identify with me. And I feel like, hey, if my story got shared and was able to touch some people in the same way, fantastic. I think it's great. I'm happy to help. No problem.
Come on, let's be honest. The picture with Rocky and stuff like that going through it, and you see that thing's been shared 1,000 times. It's great for pet owners.
Yeah, I mean, it's lots of warm fuzzies there. That's for sure.
Yeah. And
so, hey, I want to.
And just last thing to wrap that up because I just love that as a case study. So thanks for saying that question. Again, $500 for a local college student, and throwing that into your package or however you decide to price that out. I think it's one of those things that once someone has a digital video, right, not just a DVD, but an actual digital video, that's something I know Shecky would play on his phone. He'd sit there every once in a while. He'd play it on his phone. He'd want to see it, right? People do is they create memories like this, and then when you start running ads to that memory, that's something you can use for dog lovers for a good long while. If you want to advertise nationally as well too, there's ways people can send in video. But even if you want to do it on the inexpensive way, I'd film everything. I film most of our videos, by the way, just on my iPhone. I have my assistant just take the video, and you can have someone, you do what you call as a music overlay, ask them to give royalty-free music. Like, I don't put all the puzzle pieces together. I say, here's what I would like to create. Here's an example. Here's the raw footage. Can you be resourceful to find music and how it all transitions, and just send me a link and I'll give you some feedback. Like, do a rough cut for me and just send me a link, probably like you do a painting as well too, but like just let me see what it is. I don't manage the process. I allow them to do it. Probably, I'm sure, like as you're an artist, if I was to micromanage every day, how's the painting going? How you doing? What color? I didn't like that B2612 that you used, that orange. You're going to use B2617. Like, you never want to be managed like that, right? So find some easy ways, but I think that can really help out. Shecky, what are some of your comments in there? And then I know we want to talk about the breakout session.
Well, I want to dial back in really to, I mean, I know we spent a lot of time on Lynn's question, and that's great because it gives people some great insights, but it goes back to some of the real topic is, following up with your buyers and non-buyers and how crucial that is. So we're going to run out of time, so I want to just mention this before the top of the hour is that Wednesday on our breakout session, you're going to be able to find out where you stand. And here's what I mean, right? So everybody's got this. It kind of goes back to like belief systems. Everybody's got this idea like, well, I'm a newbie, I can't do this. Or they're on the opposite side. Like, I already know so much about internet marketing. This is beneath me. So really the insights that are coming up on Wednesday is we're going to cover exactly the tactics and the strategies that you can employ and will be able to employ as a complete beginner, right? No problem. Like, anybody can do this. Doesn't matter what your belief system is, right? Doesn't matter what your belief system is. Even if you're like a day one beginner, you can do this, okay? We are then going to cover like, hey, if you're an intermediate, right? And you've got some skill sets. We're going to show you exactly and map out the right way to follow up for that sort of skill set. Right? Now, lastly, if you're, there's definitely some people that follow us too that are really, really seasoned marketers and what we would call genius level, right? We can say, look, if you're a genius level, then here's what your follow-up might look like. And the cool thing about this is even if you're a beginner, you're going to be able to, as you watch through the training that we do, you're going to be able to see what's coming next for you as your skill set improves.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that I found most frustrating for myself when I was kind of, coming up the ranks or whatever you want to call it, was that I never really knew what was next. It's like, oh, there's all this complexity to everything and autoresponders and videos and things like that. But we're actually going to template out the BIG. In other words, we refer to it as the big idea, but beginner, intermediate, genius. So even if you're a beginner, you're going to be able to see what's next for you when you get to that next layer of learning and how you can create a little bit more intricacy with your follow-up process and how that intricacy could obviously capture and maintain more attention with your list. And if you're an intermediate, you're going to be able to see, okay, what's next for me if I really take my skill set to the genius level, right? How much more could I do? How much more could I be able to grab people's attention and hold them in the funnel and really create this like customized experience to where like these people are just like, they're not going anywhere. Like once you see some of what you're able to do from a standpoint of customization, you're going to it's really, even if you're not at that level yet, what's so cool about this week's training is that you're going to be able to sort of see what's coming next and you're going to be able to see really what's possible, like what's possible for you and what's possible for what you can create for your tribe, right? And once you kind of see what's possible, you're going to go, oh my God, like I can really build a very successful, sustainable, predictable, profitable business here, right? Yeah. So this week is huge for that stuff. So if you're even on the fence at all or you got something else to do, cancel whatever you have to do, or at the very least, make sure you jump on that replay because it's like we're going to blow your mind on Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, like just a couple of follow-ups to this since we're talking about follow-ups anyway. So here's what ends up happening. I mean, I just got off a almost 2-hour call with a client where we were talking about exactly this situation. And this is Shecky, this always seems to happen. Whenever you have a training subject come up, like I'm working with a client and it's like, oh, here's a great case study of what's going on right now. So let me give you an example. We're working with this client. I'm trying to figure out what I can and can't say from our NDAs and everything else. But we're working with this client. And when we always start with a client, we always sit down and say, okay, look, what do you think the cost per opt-in is going to be? Like, let's just talk about numbers so we can kind of, get some fences around it so we can kind of figure out where we're going. And, they told us, they're like, I think it's $5. Oh, $5 opt-in. Okay, for your niche, I'm not really quite sure. We haven't tested. Lucky guess. Well, it comes around $25. That's 5 times more we're expecting to pay, right? So they're freaking out. And I go, there's no reason to freak out. Maybe we don't know if it is $25 a lead or $5. Now, here's what we do know. And this is what we've gone through the entire Profit Factory. Well, the avatar is right. I know that the messaging aligns with the avatar. I know that the targeting is right. So if the avatar targeting and messaging is right, well, they did opt in. But it was $25 leads. That's pretty damn expensive. But then they showed up to the webinar. 40% showed up to the webinar. Shecky, those are good numbers. 20% of the people who showed up to the webinar stayed over 120 minutes. 20%.
That's awesome.
That's great.
That's a big number.
So now if 20% of people who attended a webinar, and these numbers may sound low to you, but Shecky and I have seen this a lot. These are really good numbers. And we're going to, again, show you where that line in the sand is. But Shecky, they want a $5 lead, but it's a $25 lead. That's expensive. But 20% of the people stay on for more than 120 minutes. Would you feel that's a qualified avatar?
Yeah, I would say that's putting it mildly. That's a highly qualified product.
Okay, but the lead isn't $5. So they're like, well, wait a minute, I'm concerned with the lead. And I go, no, hang on. So 20% stay on until the end of the webinar. Then they get another 3 emails and they see another, by the way, Shecky, you're going to smile at this too. They get 4 emails after the webinar over 4 days. And they have a close rate of 3%. So 4 emails, 4 days, and they're running a webinar special, Shecky. You know where I'm going to go with this. But 4 emails, 4 days, and they close about 3%. So they're about break even, just about. By adding it.
At what price point?
Anywhere from $797 a month all the way up to $4,500. That's what we're not worried about, a $5 lead, right? So now what happens is they close 3%, so they about break even, right? But that's with their current funnel right now. But because what we know about webinars, we're going to suggesting adding in 3 emails. Add in 3 emails over the same period of time, same amount. But those 3 emails will take their conversion rate, because Shecky, we're going to send, instead of 1 email on the last day of the sale, we're going to send 3. And you know how that works. And you know clients say, I'm not going to send people 3 emails in a day. That's what people expect at the very last day. They don't expect to get bombarded with emails, but people always push to the last minute. So only having 1 email sent out on the last day versus 3, it's a huge difference. It will take, listen to this, it will double their close rate, double. So if I said they're breaking even now, right now, Shecky, at a 3% close rate and it goes to a 6, just changing that those 3 emails and just making that 1 change doubles their revenue, doubles. Now, even if they don't buy from that.
Yeah, it's gargantuan.
It's huge. Even if they don't buy from that, and this we're going to be talking about in the next 2 weeks, they're like, Kurt, we spent $25 with these leads. And I go, I know, and you have 1,000 leads now. They go, what do we do? Well, if your product is $4,500, how about sending another 4 or 5 emails talking about how they can get started with tools that you use, processes that you use, procedures you use. Maybe you sell it for $97 or $197, but it allows them to participate. Maybe it's a splinter of your product. Maybe it's a small little training that you've done or an interview, but you allow them to participate and buy. So as you're always figuring out what tools can help people, how can I help people take that next step? You're always continuously following up. So the stuff that we're talking about this week, it's, hey, your funnel's not over. You've targeted your perfect avatar. And we have a question or two. Hey, what exactly is the avatar? That is defining out. We covered this actually in a recording a while back ago. By the way, if you go to Social Media Ad Genius YouTube page, so it's go to YouTube, Social Media Ad Genius, we have all of our blabs posted there. But the avatar is, who is your perfect customer? What's the age range? What's the demographic? Are they married, college educated? Do they attend the local country club? Who is your perfect person that you want to buy? So for us, really quick, just for an example, is 35 to 55 entrepreneur who wants to advertise more online, either with a brick and mortar or someone exactly like Shecky, who has a couple of online businesses, who has some tech knowledge, not a lot of it. Making an extra $500 or $1,000 or $2,000 a month is huge for one of Shecky's businesses, right? So being able to make these small little adjustments, Shecky just needs to know strategy, at least enough to conceptually get it, and what buttons to hit. That's all he needs to know. So what we do is we're constantly thinking about what could help Shecky. Maybe he wasn't interested in Facebook ads. Oh, maybe he likes Instagram. Maybe maybe he does like Instagram. So I'm going to send him, an email on Instagram or an Instagram article. So basically, the moral of the story is following up properly is being of service to your client. Not following up after your initial sales funnel just means that you're pretty much just trying to pick up that significant other for a quick time at night or over the course of a week, and that's about it. If you really want meaningful relationships with your customers and you want real raving fans who become customers more, keep following up and offer good value. But do not confuse good value by not selling anything. Good value is listening to your audience and always figuring out the next best way to help them. I'm telling you, Shecky, you've heard this 1,000 times. Serve the world and give other people, everything that they want, and they will serve you back and give you everything that you want. This is one reason that we do the weekly blabs, to keep that conversation going. So if you haven't done it already, by the way, go ahead and click on the link. You'll see over right underneath my video. It'll take you right over the breakout session. It's free. Just remember, we're recording these every single week. When I say these breakout sessions, Shecky spends a lot of time on these presentations. I got some great surprises in here where we show charts, next steps. What do you do to quantify that? Like Shecky said, beginning, intermediate, genius. How do you make sure that you are at least doing the right thing? Because Shecky, one thing that you alluded to earlier was you just don't know what the next step is, or even is this good or not? Like, I'm getting opt-ins at 2%. Is that good or not? No, it's horrible. Nobody's ever just told you, but here's one thing that you can do to fix that, right? So really, if you follow us over the last couple of weeks, or check out a replay, or check out the breakout session that we're doing here, you're going to see the progression that we're giving you is what we use with our 7- and 8-figure clients that any small business and any business can really use. But this week, next week, the week after that, the week after that, these are 4 weeks where typically a lot of people don't spend much of their time. They feel they always have to get new customers. Remember, it's cheaper to have a qualified lead and a qualified click and a qualified lead that you can follow up with than always going for new cold market advertising. So this is going to be really, 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 really good on Wednesday. So Shecky, you have some closing. I know there's a couple of things that I just kind of wanted to keep on going a little bit of that. There's a couple of things that I know that you wanted to add to, but this is where people really maximize the lifetime value of their customer.
No, I agree, and I'm clicking on my props button for you because just the comment about keeping existing customers versus going out and finding a new one, and I don't think most people realize that, but I'm glad you brought up, without naming any names, obviously one of our private consulting clients, because it seems like in these private consulting sessions, it doesn't seem like, we know it every time, even really, really seasoned businesses that spend lots of money on traffic, the difference between them being profitable and them not being profitable is almost always not in their offer. Right? It's almost always in the way that they're following up, right? It's like it's either not enough, or they're not giving enough insights to the way that their product or service could be used. They're not creating enough of emotional, or there's just not enough volume of follow-up. There's just not enough, amount of repeat exposures in front of people, right? So people obviously need to be hit over the head sometimes. So I'm really glad you brought that up, because even people that pay us thousands of dollars for consulting and going through their funnel, we almost always look at it and go, let's add this to the follow-up. Let's not worry so much about what this one little, cost per acquiring the lead is right now. And let's look at this big picture of what we're doing for these people. Because once we understand that there's a lifetime customer value once somebody becomes part of our tribe, right? That just gives us so much more latitude to play around and do stuff. And that's when things really get fun, right? That's when testing becomes easier. So I just want to impress that upon people, is even if you're brand new, recognize that the bigger and more seasoned companies that send lots of traffic, their biggest issue is follow-up, just like yours may be. So don't discount that. Don't think like, oh, my product or my service doesn't work. Most likely is you're not giving enough or not enough qualified follow-up. And once you build out a little bit more of that stuff and create some repeat exposures and get people to know you, like you, and trust you, increase those belief levels, and that's all Wednesday is going to be all about. But once you do that, you start seeing like, wow, I actually got people buying stuff. And, it's like we just need a lot of repetition. And we need that because two things: one, belief level, and number two is the competition for attention that goes on the internet. And the bigger the internet grows, the more that competition becomes a bigger issue. So if you've got their attention, then damn it, hold on to it.
One of the things that, Shecky, you touched on this, and I'll close this out. I think it kind of rounds us to this full hour is if we've already gone through all these steps in the profit factory, like I can't say this over and over and over and over and over enough. If you've done all these steps, don't start over. Keep following up. So like some of my clients say, I'll tell you what, here's the difference between amazing clients and highly successful people and clients who will blame everyone else. Their campaign sucks, their product sucks, and they don't make any money. You can tell I'm really passionate about this because I just worked with someone recently just like this. But here's the deal though. They have amazing products. They have amazing services. They have amazing clients. What they don't have is they don't have all their knowledge in the head of how to scale their business like we do. So what they do is they get emotional. They're like, hey, look, this may be a little off. I don't like this. It's okay. It's just the very beginning. I know, but I think this was a mistake. I don't know. And what starts to happen is when people don't know is they create this thing called fear. false events appearing real. And they make these stories in their head that is related to what they think may be happening, but they're not really quite sure. But I don't really know, but I think, but I don't know, but you guys aren't. And then with numbers, it's all black and white. When you take out the emotion, it's all black and white. Because what happens is the follow-up, you know what, we're going to add those 3 emails into the campaign for that client, and we're going to see their close rate come up. The first thing they said to me is, Kurt, we don't want to piss off our customers. And I go, okay, is that quantifiable, or is that just something that you feel? Well, what do you mean? We haven't tested the 3 emails yet. So if we see that we're getting people who are opting out and offended, we can stop sending them. But I bet we don't see that because of my experience, you don't. But before we decide that we don't like it and we're not going to do it, we're going to test it. But we don't have to spend $1 million testing it. We can find out after $250 if that was a good idea or not. We don't know until we test. So what happens is with amazing clients is we look over the numbers and we're like, oh, this number's high. Here are 3 things that I can do to adjust to bring that number down. Oh, that one ad that we did in those 3 suggestions, that caused another failure over here. It's okay. We're going to move a little bit more. We always keep moving. So if we're getting $25 leads in the funnel here, don't turn off ads. Don't get emotional and say, crap, it's $25. Remember, they still have to go through the rest of the funnel. And though they go your 7 days or 10 days through your funnel, you're still going to follow up. Don't crap out your entire business because this part right here, that kind of works a little bit, and then you just stop. You have to completely, ready for a visual here, Shecky? You have to completely follow all the way through, right? And always make it continuous. Thing is, most people stop, but that's not you. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you in a quantifiable way how to know to keep going. Einstein said it best when he was talking about to his kid who had just got out of a relationship. He said, life is like a bicycle. You must keep pedaling, otherwise you're just going to fall off. If you're running traffic and you know your numbers and you've done all the other work, then this should be part of the process of following up through email and retargeting that really starts to grow your business. Now, should everyone be doing this? Yeah, it sounds common sense. Do most of the brands and people you see are doing this effectively? Very, very, very small percentage. That makes it a big advantage for you and an opportunity for you and a big opportunity for us to teach it. So we're recording these videos over the last 90 days that will sell for over $1,000 because this hour-long content that we put together in the breakout session that you can register for down over here. This is the stuff that separates the women from the girls, the men from the boys. This isn't like, hey, you're going to make $100,000 tomorrow. This is how you have a long-term, scalable, predictable income business that's not ruled by emotion. It's ruled by you knowing the facts and the numbers. One last comment here, Shecky, and then I promise I'll wrap the whole thing up. I'm just obviously slightly passionate about this. Shecky, I just watched the movie The Big Short, right, where the guy shorted the housing market. And if you know anything about real estate, or if you were around in 2007, 2008, I lost all my money, credit. Shecky went through some of the same experiences I did, bad real estate, right? There were some really bad investments made. And then this movie documents how, honestly, we, the common folk, the middle class, we cannot participate or play at the levels that these other guys do at all. They are moving around money, which is called your retirement, my retirement. They're moving around mortgage notes, stuff that we cannot control. Honestly, I hate depending on other people controlling my money and then screwing me later because I don't know any better. When I create my own digital products, my own services, run my own traffic, I create my own destiny, and I don't give a shit if some other CEO of a major corporation gets caught with cocaine and a stripper and my stock price drops, which means my retirement's cut in half. I think that's shitty and bullshit. The reality that Shecky and I live in is we can create whatever we want to have any experience that we want, whether to take care of your health, travel the world, do whatever you want, but it's all about follow-up. So please register for the breakout. You can tell I'm really passionate about this. Let's do the right thing. Let's do the right thing for you, your customers, and your audience. Join our breakout session. You'll see the recording. I can't get more passionate about this business. Show up. Check. Anything else?
No, I just want to say to Lynn, thanks for your questions. And I mean no disrespect when I say this, but the nature of your questions are such that everything and more would be answered by you being a member of Social Media Ad Genius. Yeah. Like campaigns, avatars. I mean, that whole sequence, we go through all this. So I want to encourage you to become a member. And obviously when you do, whether you know this or not, you will get a free consulting call with me. I'm happy to get on the phone with you. That goes for anybody else that's not currently a social media ad genius. If you probably already had your call with me, and I'm sure you got a lot of value out of it, because that's some of my favorite things to do. So I really, really want to encourage you to anybody who's not to be part of the family, because that's where we really get into the meat and potatoes, and you have this resource that's always available to you to go into any of those nuances and any of those metrics and any of those tactics. It's always available for you. And then in the background, Kurt and myself are always here. And one of the other biggest benefits, obviously, is after our presentation on Wednesdays, Kurt jumps on the phone with people and you get direct access to Kurt. So it's called the Insiders Club. And that's just really, I mean, I know, Kurt, you don't like to toot your own horn, but I'm going to toot your horn for you to say, for you guys, I don't think you really understand the value of having direct access to